Hello again, viewers, and greetings, fellow space travelers. This is Thorn of Night, and welcome to part 10 of my attempt at a guide for RotaryCraft. Now, I have been, up until this point, uh, basically putting up my videos with what I understand the way the items work in this current mod pack, which is uh, version 19B of RotaryCraft. I'm using it in the recommended version of Monster currently, with all the just default config settings, everything normal, because this is a mod pack that a lot of people are using, and I've actually had a few of you ask me to uh, demonstrate how the RotaryCraft stuff works. So I'm going to be going through all of the items for this version, and if there are any major changes in the RotaryCraft mod that no longer apply, or if I've really messed something up extraordinarily in my guide, uh, then I will be having additional videos at the end with updated information. Also, check the description for any information that I didn't cover in the video itself. And also, Reika themselves has been commenting, filling in some of my blanks and pointing out whenever I've goofed up or just left something out, or if something has just changed in more recent versions. So do also read the descriptions and the comments below. But today I am going to be trying to finish off the production machines chapter. I guess that's a good enough word for it. This stuff here. Starting with this thing called the pump. And the pump, well, first recipe is a glass pane, an impeller, 3 liquid pipes, 2 base panels, and 2 steel ingots. The pump, when supplied with power, with rotational power from either the front or the back, will slurp up any fluids or any liquids that it is placed over. So you can place it over a pool of lava, over a pool of oil, over a pool of water, whatever. It will slurp it up and output it into, for instance, a fluid, or what's this? A liquid pipe, to be pumped into a machine or storage like a reservoir or tank or whatever. Now, in order to get this thing to work, it does have minimum power requirements. 256 radians per second at 4 newton meters of torque. But this is not the maximum. You cannot make this explode by overpowering it, but beyond 955 radians per second, it doesn't do its operations any more quickly. Now, I have here some glowstone set up, some liquid glowstone. I think it's called energized glowstone. I closed it anyway, just to demonstrate this. And I'm going to put this on. About that, I had a phone call. Anyway, I was about to turn this thing on. The glowstone that is underneath it, 16 blocks away from the center. If I turn this on, it will start slurping up, and it does slurp from the most extreme part, 1 bucket at a time. However, it is not being put into the reservoir. I can probably, yeah, I can hook up an open blocks tank and it'll fill it into there nicely, but the reservoir doesn't seem to be working. And why is this dragging back? There we go. So that's the demonstration of energized glowstone. Now, it does tend to keep a very minimal amount of whatever it was slurping in it, so watch out for that. You can, you can just break it. I was testing to see if it would output automatically to a tank. It does not. What is up with this lag? but you can just break it and replace it and it'll go back to normal. Let me turn this off and fill this in with water, and I have some water demonstrations for you. Be right back. Alright, there we go. Water in place. Now, I have extended this back by 1 so you can see what happens when it gets started. So, let me make it daytime. Come back over here. You can see that it is taking from the water, and it started with this block here, but because there's a water source block on both sides, it created an infinite water supply, and it will do that as long as you have it running slowly enough. If you kick it up in speed all the way up to maximum, however, let's see here, 955. You'll get the lovely noises. And let's just place a bedrock here. Oh, the tank is full. Whoops. There we go. It will go through, and more quickly than the water can update, it will just take it away, so you won't be able to have an infinite water supply that way. So there is a sweet spot, and let's go ahead and turn this off, and I'll set it up for the sweet spot. I'll be right back. Alright, I have just a regular square infinite water supply beneath it, and right now I have it set at 780. It seems to be a little hairy. It's probably got to do with the actual refresh rate of the water itself not being a specific amount of time, like maybe the water gets scooped between the ticks or something. I'm not sure. But right around 35 is the maximum, or 0.35 operation time, 0.35 seconds, is right about the sweet spot before you start getting too fast. If that gets down to 0.3 seconds for an operation time, this is very, very likely to just scoop up the entire water, as opposed to just one block at a time, giving enough time to refresh. Once again, that does have a little bit to do with things like lag and other little environmental things that are going to interfere with the refresh rate of the water going back into an infinite water supply. But at about 780 radians per second, you should be pretty safe in placing it over that, and that will help you get a little bit more oomph out of it for speed. But if you just want to increase the power, let's go ahead and crank this up to maximum for that. It won't, well, actually I think no, that works. It won't scoop anything faster by increasing the torque, but it will generate more power and therefore more pressure. So the torque is probably going to be what you want to mess with for increasing the pressure if you want to maintain an infinite water supply. But that is the pump. If I missed anything, I'm sure I will discover along with you down in the comments. And if you have any questions, obviously ask me. But I'm going to move on to the next item. Alright, this next thing is called the Obsidian Factory. And really quick, the recipe for that is some steel ingots, glass pane, liquid pipe, base panels, and a mixer. It's similar in design to the pump over there, but a little bit different. It does have a GUI, which you can use to access the information, just like all the other GUIs for the devices in this mod. And basically what this does is it makes obsidian. You have to give it lava and water, and it will just craft obsidian very happily. If you leave it with just only lava for too long, it will melt, and by melt, it basically makes a huge mess. but let's see here. It does have minimum power requirement with a minimum speed. So with the 2048 radians per second speed minimum, that comes out to 16 newton meters of torque. Let's see here. It does have an internal storage for both the lava and the water. Its maximum temperature is 1,000 degrees, and that's the point where it goes squishy. But using, for instance, the angular transducer, you can't really tell the temperature of it. However, looking directly at it with the tooltip, you can. But you can see down there it just has the amount of fluid in it and the power that it's receiving, but the tooltip up above will tell you the temperature. So keep an eye on that, but it will hold 320 buckets of each water and lava, and if I go ahead and kick this on, you'll see that it's starting to make obsidian using the lava and water that can be pumped in from any of the four sides. It receives power from the bottom, so I've got some of these bevel gears here going to power it that way. But happily making obsidian, but at the base rate for that speed there, it is working at just under 7 seconds. If you want to crank that up to maximum, it's 10,085 radians per second. Makes a nice hissing sound, and it really boogies. And at that speed, it will go through pretty quick. That's 1 obsidian per tick that it makes at that speed. Now, it won't blow up from giving it too much juice, but you just have to watch out how much lava is put into it. That will, if it's just standing with lava, it will overheat. And also, if you have anything generating heat near it, it will also overheat. But that's pretty much it for the Obsidian Factory. Nothing too terribly fancy there. No other bells and whistles as far as I can tell. If there is, I'm sure I'll find out in the comments. But anyway, moving on to the next one. Alright, the next item we have here is something called the rock melter. And the recipe for that there is a reservoir, some steel ingots, 2 base panels, a shaft unit, and a steel gear. And it does have a GUI, an inventory of 9 different spots, and as well as access to the page. Now, what this does is it turns rock material of different sorts into different amounts of lava. The power does come in from the bottom. Now, there are no numbers on here, so I don't know the exact cutoffs, but it can start functioning at 1 watt of power. I just don't know how long it will take. It'll probably take a billion years or something. I don't know. But there's no numerical output for me to compare to. But I have determined that there is a pretty solid max speed right around these numbers here. For instance, if I turn on, you see it's that's a point I've learned, to 0.097 megawatts. And that is pretty much the cutoff for doing 1 operation per tick. It might be lower than that. Like I said, I don't know the exact numbers because there's no numerical output. But the way this works is if you put rocks in here, it will grind them into lava, and it does have an internal storage of 64 buckets. And for instance, you can see that 1 cobblestone gave me half a bucket of lava. 1 smooth stone gives a whole bucket of lava, and for instance, a netherrack gives 2. You can see now it's at 3,500 out of 64,000, or 3.5 buckets of lava. Now, let me turn this off. The contents can be piped out into storage units, so you can just put some reservoirs or tanks next to it and let it go. But ultimately, it's used for making lava. And even though it's not running, it still has some heat, but I can't see any sort of indication of the temperature or any other numbers on it, unfortunately. I don't know if that's changed in more recent versions, but it runs off of frictional heat, and it doesn't seem to explode. I've had this cranked all the way up. I'll go ahead and demonstrate that. Just happily grinds away. Where is it putting all that lava? Oh, I guess because the pipe there has a lot of inventory space. But it holds a bunch. It holds 64 buckets of fluid. And why is it? Oh, that one millibucket prevents it from making the next one. Okay. But yeah, this is a great way to get some lava production going. Lava is not a renewable resource in normal Minecraft, so having a way to make it is a fantastic thing. And this does it pretty well. So go ahead and get yourself one of these. It is called, once again, the Rock Melter. But moving on to the next thing. Alright, this next thing here is called the Point Aggregator. And let me put the book in the correct slot here. Bring up the recipe for it and all the information. It's on page 2. There we go. Point Aggregator needs some glass pane, some steel ingots, a base panel, shaft unit, and a compressor. And what this thing does is it takes the moisture in the air and turns it into usable water. It has some minimum power requirements. It needs at least 4096 radians per second speed, and that means bare minimum 2 newton meters of torque. 2 times 4096 is 8192 watts. It receives the power from the bottom, so I've got a bevel gear underneath there. And basically, you just set it down, turn it on, and it will slurp up water from the air into a storage tank. Now you see that it's not working. I don't know if this is a bug or if this is something to do with the Monster mod pack, but I assure you this is working, and in order to demonstrate that this is working, I'm going to go ahead and just jump over to the Nether to show you, for one thing, that it works in the Nether. It is gradually accumulating water from the air, which this is an awesome Nether spawn. Right at the base of a fortress. I couldn't hope to find something like this in one of my normal worlds. This is ridiculous. But let's go back to that previous dimension, the overworld, and take a look. And magically it has started working. So for some reason you have to change dimensions or save and exit and reload, or I couldn't get it to work when I left the chunk radius and came back. Maybe I wasn't gone long enough or something, but it does work. It's just if it isn't working for you immediately, go ahead and change dimensions or something. Excuse me, or something. Basically, that's what it does. Is it takes the water out of the air and turns it into useful water. I don't have any numbers for you for its process time, how many millibuckets it can make or whatever per tick at different speeds, but as you can see, it's making a pretty decent amount of water just base. Let me go ahead and bump this up to, I don't know, 16,384. That seemed to speed it up a little bit, but I don't have any exact numbers for maximum speed here, unfortunately. But you can pump more juice into it and get it to run a little bit faster. But this is a great way to get water in the Nether. Definitely recommend trying it. But that is the Point Aggregator. Moving on to the final piece in this episode. Alright, the final item in this episode. This is called the Refrigeration Unit. It does have a GUI, and it looks like it's got a lot of complex stuff going on, but don't worry too much, it's pretty straightforward. Obviously, with the GUI comes the tab to the book, so let's see what we've got here for a recipe. Some base panels, liquid pipe, some steel ingots, a compressor, a condenser, and a diffuser. And actually, just in case I haven't gone over all of those in my earlier episodes, let's go ahead and look here. Compressor, steel ingot, or steel gear surrounded by steel ingots. The condenser is some steel ingots and some liquid pipe. And finally, the diffuser is just some steel ingots like that. Anyway, oh, it's getting nighttime. What this thing does is it refrigerates. Okay, that's it. No, it drastically cools the air to a much lower temperature than you can normally get in regular Minecraft. Typically, the coldest thing you're going to deal with is ice. Well, that's just not cold enough. This thing takes ice and turns it up to 11. Let's go ahead and look at the stats on this real quick. It requires input from the back with 32,768 watts of power, which is 2,048 newton meters of torque, and 16 radians per second for speed. And that's the bare minimum to get it running. Turn it on, and it'll start doing this wonderful humming noise. And this animation will come through, a progress bar sort of thing. It's all colored and pretty and intricate and all that, and it'll get all the way over to here and will consume ice. It has to be ice. Snow and snowballs won't work, but when you get ice in there, come on, you can do it. It's going to put something either here or here. I did it here this time. Liquid nitrogen. The other thing, let's go ahead and crank this up to its maximum speed. It doesn't explode, but there's a maximum speed before your energy input is wasted, 5693. And you can see that it also makes this stuff called dry ice. Now, liquid nitrogen will get pumped out into any storage that you want by hooking up the little pipes to it, but it makes liquid nitrogen and dry ice, which are going to be used in some future things. I haven't gone over anything that uses the liquid nitrogen or dry ice specifically just yet. It might be able to be used as a coolant for an engine. Maybe I didn't cover that. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I'm sure I'll find out. But basically, that's what the refrigeration unit does, is it makes these two specialty items. You have to provide ice and power, but it's, as far as I know, the only way to actually get these. So that is the refrigeration unit. And that is going to have to be it for this episode. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please feel free to leave a message in the comment section below. Also, if I missed something, if I skipped over a detail or glanced through something too quickly and didn't explain it as thoroughly as I could have, probably very soon after this goes up, there will be some more messages in the comments from Reika. I hope I've covered everything as well as I can. I'm sure there's more information, like Reika's probably going to say something about how the Point Aggregator probably doesn't have to change dimensions outside of the monster mod pack or something, but I'm sure I missed something, and we will all find out in the comment section below. But if you like this video, please feel free to give a like. I do appreciate that. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so you know when my future stuff comes out. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. Thank you very much for watching. This is Thorn of Night, and I will talk to you later.